Hey there, Danielle Matthews here. I am coming to you live from Florida. Today's Monday. It means it's book club day. We are in the midst of Loyalty to Your Soul. Loyalty to Your Soul. We are reading chapter 4, which was titled Consciousness in a Nutshell, which is a fun title. But we got about halfway through it last time we connected, and so we are going to finish out chapter 4 today. So if you're joining me live, let me know when you get here. If you are watching the replay, let me know that you're on the replay. Hey, Kathy, good to see you. If you've got questions, as always, put it in the chat. I'm here. It's me answering the questions, whether you're live with me or not. And in Telegram, we also have our community of enlightened minds over there. Now, all of the book clubs that I've ever done, they now have a home and they are housed on YouTube. It's called Enlightened Minds Book Club, and you can find all of them there. So I will be posting these here. Apparently, Facebook, Instagram, they don't want to house the live videos for forever anymore. So they're going to live forever on YouTube, but they'll be here. I think they keep them for like 30 days or something. All right. Loyalty to Your Soul, Chapter 4, Consciousness in a Nutshell. Here is what we are talking about, guys. The remaining of this chapter is pretty much mapping out what I thought was a very interesting model for how our consciousness functions, like how the mind actually works. Have you ever noticed that when you go to try to break a habit, it's very difficult, or when you go to try something new? Like I coach and train a lot of people in the network marketing space. So they're starting new businesses, they're stepping out. And I literally just got off finishing talking to somebody just now whose mind got in her way. She was going to launch a business. She was going to do this great thing. And all of a sudden now there's 100 reasons why she can't do it and she's not doing it. And I just smiled, and we'll talk about why today that happened. and it's happening to you. It has probably happened to you, and let's understand it so we can navigate it, right? You can't fix what you don't understand. Once you understand it, you can understand how to navigate with and work with our mind and understand how it's functioning, why it's doing what it's doing, okay? All right, so basically, I'll hold it up here so just so you can see over here and here. This is like the format that they're working with. Very simple. It's like a table that says how consciousness functions. It says physical realm, mental realm, emotional realm. Okay, so let's define these things so that we understand what we're working with. The physical realm, they're saying this is where everything happens, right? We've talked about the goal line. That's what we talked about last week, about how events take place and what we need to do and navigate in this life. And this is like at the level of relationships, career, finances, your physical health, family, and so on, right? Everything that's happening out there, that's the physical realm. And then you have the mental realm. The mental realm is part of your ego, your self-identity, okay? These are your thoughts, your beliefs, your values, your attitudes, your preconceived notions about reality, all right, that are based on things that you learned growing up. And then you have the emotional realm, all right? So the emotional realm gives power to the thoughts. It gives a lot of power to your mind, and it provides the energy right behind these things. This is where emotion comes from, energy in motion. And it's an estimation of the importance to, what you're considering, what the mind is thinking about, how much emotion is behind it is based on like how much your mind actually thinks it matters. So this is sort of the basic structure for how they're talking about things. And what he says is if you look at these three realms, physical reality, let's talk about that. We want success. We don't want failure, right? We want all the good things in our career, not the bad things. We want a happy relationship, not one that makes us angry. We want all of these things that are split between positive and negative. In the physical world, would you agree, there's day and night, there's light and dark, there's love and hate. There is a polarity to everything. There is positive and negative, and we want the positive, right? We all want the good, we don't want the bad. Would you agree? Like put a 1 in the chat if you would agree. I think most of us, it's kind of like how the mind functions. It's seeking and wanting the good things in life. It's, wanting to earn more. It's wanting to have the things. It's wanting to have the great relationship. It's wanting to have all of the things and not having to deal with the failures and the setbacks and all of that stuff. It's kind of how we're programmed. All right. So that's the physical realm. And then in the mental realm and emotional realm, it's the same thing. We want to feel good. We don't want to feel bad. Okay. So there is a polarity that's happening inside of our consciousness, where there's a dynamic between two different things. And thanks, Lou, for being honest and agreeing. Yeah, that's what you want. And what happens is, he says, if you look at these three realms a bit more closely, you'll see that what they have in common is the function of polarity or duality. Now, he kind of said these things as if they were the same, these words, polarity and duality. And I would tend to disagree that they're not the same thing at all. Actually, this is sort of the crux of everything. And duality is when you start to have preference between these poles. We say, I only want good, I never want bad. I only want to feel happy, I never want to feel sad. I only want joy, I never want anger. Right? How many of you find yourself tending towards that way? And that's duality. It's when we choose. So polarity exists. There's day and night. Duality is saying, I only want sunshine, I never want rain. And so therefore, when it's raining, I can't be happy. Right? When you choose one or the other, the polarity that was in perfect balance now all of a sudden becomes like this versus that. And that's what's happening in our consciousness. Now, I'm not going to dive into a big lesson on that, but he's saying the same thing, that if you've taken mastery, we talk in depth about this, right? He says the ego conveniently divides all experiences into positive or negative, depending on how it's defined in our own mind. Which is wild, because people can have the same experiences and one person will say that was great and the other person will say that was the worst thing ever, because it depends on our own mind. Okay? And now he says, beneath all of this, behind the ego, there is something that resides in another dimension of awareness. I don't have it here with me. Is it close? No, I don't see where it is. But I have like a yin-yang, and so it shows the polarity, right? The cool thing about the yin-yang and the one I have, like if you just flip it over to the other side and you don't see the black and the white pieces, it just looks like a circle. That's the unity. When you can hold both things and still be open to them, right? To not have preference one over the other. But if you can hold both, the dark and the light, and say there's a space for both, there's a time for both happiness and sadness. In fact, I appreciate happiness more because of sadness. You know, I'll never forget taking my spiritual teacher down to the springs and looking at all the birds and saying, they don't even know that they're free. They don't appreciate their freedom because they've never known control. And you don't appreciate what you have unless you've known the opposite. True or not true? Okay? So beneath all of this is part of his model, again, how consciousness functions. He's kind of building out that there is this unconditional love. There is this, he calls it the authentic self. I'm saying it's the backdrop, it's the witness, it's the sky that's able to hold the rainbow and the thunderstorms and not have preference to either. All right? That's what he's setting up. He says the authentic self, the unconditional loving self, does not get into duality. It accepts everything as it is. And if you hadn't figured this out, hey there from Washington State, good to see you, glad you're here. If you haven't figured it out yet, that's the key to life, is being able to come to this space of the unconditional, all-allowing, non-judgmental, receiving whatever comes into your life, your vessel, your experience, not with a preference of I like this or I don't like that, accepting it for what it is, and then learning how to work with it once it's shown up. All right, that's what we're getting to. But he says the authentic self, I'm on page 74. The authentic self isn't interested in, nor does it have any concern about, success in the world. It seems to have one purpose, and that purpose is to gain wisdom and to grow in expression of its nature, and its nature is love. So it's learning how to be more loving. Love, not being emotional love. Love being, he describes it as compassion, peace, acceptance, infinite patience, gratitude, wisdom, joy. I would describe it as non-judgmental, all-allowing, all-encompassing, as if you're the sky, the blue sky that's in the backdrop when there's a hurricane moving through and a tornado moving through and birds and planes and all of the things, right? It's always there. Doesn't judge anything that's in it. It's unconditional, all-accepting, all-allowing. That is also within you. And what you want to do is get in touch with that and grow that. It's going to take care of all of your stress. Promise. But he says, when you find yourself infused with any of these qualities that I just spoke about, this is an indicator that you've shifted into a higher frame of reference within which everything that's happening to you is still happening, only now you're seeing it as a blessing. Nothing has changed outwardly, yet you are at peace, or more accurately, you are in peace. You're able to be fine with the ups and the downs. You don't have preference. You go, oh, this just is the way it is. You get rid of expectations, you get rid of preference, you get rid of all of these things. All right, that was fun. Yes, all loving. I didn't know I could do that. Just brought a lot of hearts out over there. So when you are seen from the level of the authentic self, you are seen from a more expansive context devoid of the dualistic perceptions. Okay? Nothing that you're seeing is based on any experience from the past. Like we talk a lot of time about how our past clouds our current vision, right? Maybe you were bit by a dog when you were little. And so now when a dog comes, you're on a walk and a dog comes by, you feel yourself instinctually pull back and get nervous. In this present moment, did that dog threaten you? Was a bite even likely? No. You were meeting the present moment with a feeling of, from our past, I don't like dogs. Dogs are scary. Dogs can hurt, right? And so in the moment, you're getting out of this acceptance of what's here and you're moving into, because of what your mind is programmed with, dogs are bad. Does this make sense? I mean, in that example, it's kind of easy to see, but what you don't know is that this is happening all the time to you, okay? This is happening all the time in ways that we're like totally blind to, and it's really impacting our lives. He says, psychology, I thought this was interesting, so this is page 76. He said, herein lies one of the keys to the value and power of spiritual psychology. If you work within conventional psychological systems, the goal is usually to foster more constructive behavior, more rational thought processes, greater emotional maturity, or some combination of these. The aim is always a more fulfilling life, largely measured on the goal line. And this, of course, is valuable work. So it's saying psychology, traditional psychotherapy, it's getting you to understand your mind. It's getting you to understand, oh, I'm reacting this way because of what happened in my childhood with the dog. That makes sense. Okay, let me see if I can expand my emotions to be able to not react this way. That is what traditional psychology is doing for us. Now, where does spiritual psychology come in? Where does spiritual evolution start to awaken to this? Here's what he says. He says, in spiritual psychology, however, the primary aim is to complete your spiritual curriculum. Remember, we're here on earth for lessons. He says, the way to do this is to learn to work with unresolved psychological material by drawing it into the level of the authentic self, where it then dissolves. Ironically, the automatic byproduct of completing spiritual curriculum by resolving unresolved issues is that the quality of your life invariably will improve. And so he says, let's see what this process might look like. I want to just kind of put that in my own words. What he's saying is, once you see these reactions that come up, rather than at the level of the mind and your emotions to will yourself into being different, you just accept this is what's here. Okay, now that I accept and see that, I have this reaction, maybe the reaction is that I don't feel like, I feel like everyone's trying to abandon me, or I feel like nobody listens to me. When you see that reaction come up in the moment, in the present moment, and you realize, wow, this is based on a past experience, sometimes just shining the light of awareness on that and going, oh, that's not even true. That's a thing from my past. That alone, bringing it into the light of awareness, accepting that it's there, allows it to finally dissolve. It's kind of wild. It's not as complicated as you think, right? In psychology, sometimes they're making you really like bang it, bang it, bang it, bang it, bang on it and trying at the level of the mind fix it, but you can't. You have to just accept, oh, this is how it is. And I promise you, it will start to dissolve. This is what I teach in my mastery program because there's techniques and tools for doing this. I will be curious to see what they say. He seems to say, oh, just the awareness of it will make it dissolve. Like, yes, but sometimes it's hard to just sit and be aware. But let's talk about an example. So he uses the example of losing weight. And so he talks about how you have physical, mental, and emotional realms in our life that are impacting us. And he says, okay, in the physical realm, if you make a shift, so he has, the positive and the negative, kind of 50-50. And now we've made a shift in the physical realm. We've lost weight. So we're literally changing our physical body, 25 pounds. He says what happens is now the positive, there's some of the negative has gone, like we've lost some weight. So there's more positive. This is how he shows it in his chart. It's kind of a strange visual. It took me a little while to understand what he was after. But he's showing how now, because we've lost weight, there's more positive in the physical realm because there's been positive shifts, okay? Well, what happens now, the mental emotional is a little out of balance because now the physical realm is like 75-25 And the other two realms are 50-50. And so now, in order for the other two to catch up, the mental and emotional aspects of why'd you gain weight in the first place, the mental side of that, the habitual side of that, maybe it was you were eating to protect yourself, or you were eating because you were sad, or you were eating to try and avoid emotions. The mental and emotional stuff that was there behind the weight gain is going to bubble up. This is what people don't understand. And his way of explaining it is, I think, okay, kind of clear, but I really want to drill on it. He says, what you've done is you've disturbed the homeostatic balance in your psychological system. The mental and emotional levels are no longer in alignment with the physical level. This is exactly what happens, and what I have seen happen when people say start a new business, or they go after a new goal, or they're trying to create a new habit. You're trying to change something in the physical realm, and we can exert our will and change in the physical realm, but what happens? Our mind, our emotions start to bubble up. We try to do something new, and all of a sudden there's all this fear. The mind is saying, well, you can't do that. You've tried that in the past. It didn't work. Da, 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 da. All of this stuff starts to bubble up, right? If you have ever stepped out of your comfort zone, put a 5 in the chat. If you heard your mind and your emotions inside of you all of a sudden go crazy. It's like the moment you step outside of this in the physical world and you try to create change, the internal mental emotional side, he's saying, because your balance in the psychological system is now off, it has to catch up, right? What do I mean by that? Like, it literally, I think this is the best visual of it. He's like, look, you shifted the physical realm, and now there's this space in the mental emotional realm that has to be filled in. And it's going to kick up all sorts of stuff. So yeah, put a 5 in the chat if you're like, yeah, I've attempted. So I see several of you. You're like, yeah, I've attempted to do something in the physical world, and all of a sudden my mind tries talking right back out of it, and all of a sudden I just want to go curl up in a ball, right? I watch it happen. And this is why, as a mentor and coach with people in business, I'm like, this is key. Right at the beginning, if I can help them get past that, they'll see, well, nothing actually happened. The mental emotional stuff weren't real. Okay, it felt very real, but it's all an illusion, right? And if they just didn't listen to it, if they didn't give it energy, if they let it be there but moved forward anyway, it just, that ghost just goes away. It just goes away. And all of a sudden they realize, wow, I can do that. And so now their comfort zone expands. Okay, and so now the next time they shift their physical reality, they see the same mental emotional stuff get kicked up. They go, oh, that's why I was staying small. That's why I was in the space I was in. Okay, I have to deal with the mental emotional side. Great. Deal with that. Okay, I've expanded. Now the next thing and the next thing. And this is how life goes. If you're willing to work your spiritual curriculum. If you're not, well, that's why a lot of people, have just kind of settled in life. They're not living the life they really want to live. He says, this is the juncture that the game gets interesting. I'm on page 79. What will happen next is that all of the mental and related emotional material that was associated with why you gained those 25 pounds in the first place is going to come bubbling up to the surface for you to heal. This is what's so beautiful. You can use everything in life, the stuff you're trying to do in the physical level, right, on the goal line, to exert change in your physical health, in your financial health, in the relationships, all of it, right? As soon as you start doing that, the mental, emotional stuff is going to get kicked up. And it's like, am I willing to deal with it? It's like when you finally get into a committed relationship, and then it's like, wow, all this stuff starts to happen. And it's like, yeah, because you made a physical shift in the physical world. And now all the stuff that you need to heal about past relationships that you never healed, and all the stuff about yourself, it's going to get revealed. If you know that it's coming, it won't knock you over. And if you see that this is spiritual development, you will want to do it. Because this is the stuff that you take, your soul takes with you. So he said, I love this. He said another example of this. He read something by Jimmy Breslin, I don't know who that is, in the New York Times that went something like, when you stop drinking, you have to deal with the marvelous personality that started you drinking in the first place, right? It's like most people, when they're drinking alcohol or taking drugs, they're doing it to numb themselves out from something. All right, from whatever mental or emotional stuff is in there. And so when you stop the drinking or you stop the drugs, all of a sudden now you got to deal with, as he says, that marvelous personality that got you there in the first place. All of the emotions and all of the mental talk that made you and drove you to do that, right? Lou says, so as we become that healthy, authentic self, the physical can expand. Yes, exactly. So this is exactly a good point, Lou. So Lou is saying, well, what if I work on the mental and emotional side? If I expand the mental and emotional side, the physical reality will shift. Thank you for saying this, because he doesn't point this out. Maybe he will later in the book. But a lot of times people work in the physical world because we're used to goal setting and doing stuff there. But this is why when people are doing the inner work, I say to them all the time, you are shifting mentally and emotionally. You are doing big shifts. There's a lot of inner work going on. This is the inner work with all of those limiting beliefs and all that stuff. Shifting that, it is inevitable that your physical reality will also change. Okay, and I always tell everybody, like in my business, you become diamond internally before it will externally be there. You have to become, all right, and then it will occur. They say the saying is be, do, have. You have to be it first, so then you'll start doing the things you need to do in the physical world so you'll have it. But you will never do the things you need to do until the mental, emotional, the being side is right. Does this make sense? This is so key. Lou, thank you for saying this, because you could shift the mental, emotional, and then the physical is going to have to, it's eventually going to have to shift. So as you do the inner work, yes, your business will expand, your relationships will expand, everything will expand externally as you continue to do the inner work. It's key. You got to do both. If you're not doing both, like I've watched people build something in the external world and then it collapses. Why? Because they did not have the mental and emotional side figured out. And so eventually everything comes back into balance. It just does. And in business, in the business I'm in, I always say to people, like, your business is a direct reflection of you, your internal state. And if you want to shift it, you need to shift internal in order to shift the external. You got to be willing to do it. You got to be willing to do it. If you shift the external temporarily, maybe 6 months, it grows, it's going to come back to wherever your mental and emotional image of yourself is. Just how it works. So Lou, thank you for saying that, because it's key. Like, this is the stuff you have control over. This is where you can shift from. It's an inner shift first. He says, research studies indicate that approximately 95% of people who release a significant amount of weight gain it back in 5 years. Why? You understand the principle now. You changed something in the physical world, lost weight. Great, you did it through diet and exercise and you were just religious about it. But did you also shift the mental and emotional reasons behind the weight gain? Most people do not. And so what happens? Within 5 years, the weight comes back. It just does, because everything always comes back out to this internal balance point. And the mental and emotional side of life, you can't get away from. You just can't. All right? He says, because the post-diet thinner person hasn't been taught how to resolve the mental and emotional issues at the ego level, and this is necessary to support and sustain the shift in consciousness that was initiated by releasing the weight. So if people don't do the inner work, all that will happen is that they'll gravitate back toward where they started because they can't tolerate the homeostatic imbalance for long. It's too uncomfortable. Guys, this is your spiritual growth. Every opportunity on the goal line in the physical world, it is disturbing and kicking up stuff inside of you for you to heal. So enjoy those moments. It's like, wow, that happened. So now I can witness it and now I can deal with that. And then I can expand and I can expand and I can expand. This is what it's all about. This is what I dive into in the mastery program. I mean, this is like helping you to do that and giving you the techniques and things to support. But he has a beautiful example of this lady, I think her name was Maggie, who like lost 160 pounds, which is incredible. That's like a person. She lost 160 pounds, but once she was thin, all of a sudden she was getting this attention from men. And all of a sudden, her insecurities around that, right, caused her, because she didn't deal with those insecurities, caused her to put the weight back on because the weight was protecting her. It was a mental, emotionally, she needed protection. She felt too vulnerable. And so she put on physical weight. It happens. And so now they said they're working with her on the mental, emotional side about those vulnerabilities, about that aspect, so that when she releases weight, she'll be able to keep it off. All right. So my encouragement to all of you, advice to all of you, is to use your everyday experiences as rungs on the ladder for your spiritual evolution, right? Every single interaction, right? Just see how when you, boom, expand your comfort zone intentionally, deal with the mental and emotional stuff that gets kicked up. If you don't deal with it, you're going to come back down and you're going to be stuck in this stage. That's it. Now, if you're fine with that, fine. Live your life there. But if you want to expand, you're going to have to deal with this stuff. And if you are expanding internally, the external is going to shift in relationships, in your career, in everything. It will catch up. It has to. That's how it works. All right. Now, he has these stem sentences at the end of every chapter. I hope that you did them and used them as a prompt. He says, so if some of my memories are inaccurate, then what does that mean for you? I was thinking about this. I said, okay, if some of my memories are inaccurate, so if my mind is clinging to something and some story and it's kind of cherry picking information, it's not remembering the whole picture, I said, well, then I should just drop my past altogether, because I'm not even probably clearly remembering it. And so why am I giving it so much importance when it might even be false? Like, be in the present moment. That is what I got from that. That was what I put. The next one is, if my feelings stem from my thoughts, then what? So if my feelings stem from my thoughts, I also said, well, then my thoughts also must impact my feelings. It must go both ways. And so if I can calm my thoughts, it will calm my feelings. And if I can calm my feelings, it will calm my thoughts. So learning how to work with my thoughts and work with my feelings, which is what I do. And then the next one, what disturbs my peace is old memory events being triggered. that is what disturbs my peace all of the time. Old memory events getting triggered. That's what does it. And so if you can, and this is what I do moment by moment, when I see myself getting disturbed, I go, okay, that's something from my past. Let's see what's actually here so I can resolve it. Bring it into the light of awareness and let the light dissolve it. That's what I want. All right. So if you guys had anything, please put it in the chat. I'd love to hear it. You can add it into Telegram if you're kind of still contemplating this. Next week, we're going to get into chapter 5. It's a big chapter, and you know, with these, it's not exactly clear where to stop, but I'm thinking we read to page 97, where it says early learning is by association. I feel like that's a good sort of, we can cut the chapter in two. It's about what we can get through. So that's page 85 to like page 96, top of 97. All right, that's what we will plan on for next time. As always, guys, share this with anyone you think this would be of value to. I love these conversations with you. It's a great start to the week. So thank you for making the time to be here. Thank you for catching the replay, if you caught the replay. And I'll be posting this to Enlightened Minds Book Club on YouTube. So it will be up there always, always, always for you. All right, have a great day. Lots of love.